I decided to make another video. It is, according to my clock, it's April the 19th. It's a Tuesday. It's 9:43 at night. I'm sitting in the dining room. I like the dining room because there's a lot of, it's light. I like the light in here. I like filming in my main study, but it's dark in there, and if I film down in the lower level, it's the fluorescent lights, I think, affect the film. So I think this is the best place. I'm using my new camera that I bought this fall. Usually I use my wife's old camera. So I'm sitting here at night, and I've been writing in my diary. When I read, I always take notes. I'm on page 334 of the year 2016. Usually I write around 1,000 pages a year, 1,200. Usually I write around 3 pages a day, sometimes 4. But see, I take notes, so it's not all just writing. Like I'll put down book titles, or I'll write down sentences that will be entries in. I'm always looking for entry titles for my online diaries. Like tomorrow I'll use this entry title: "An artificial desire for non-necessity drove the economy." I just like certain sentences or phrases that kind of represent some kind of external reality in the world out there in the American empire. So I'm sitting here writing in my diary, and I've been reading those articles I mentioned that I copied off the internet today on Charles Baudelaire, the painter of modern life. This is an article I got off the internet. So I read that, and I got this by Walter Benjamin. He wrote this article, Paris, the capital of the 19th century. I'm reading that. And this is from a section from Charles Baudelaire's The Painter of Modern Life that was published in 1863. And this is another article by Jeanette Wilnette, Baudelaire and Modernity. So I'm reading those just for tonight. And I've been reading Paris Vagabond. I really like this book. The more I explore it, the more I analyze it, the more I think about it. It's a work of art. But I wanted to mention in this video that, if you don't know, I collect books on Paris, France, because in Paris, France, you have the rise of modernism. And so I'm a student of modernism. So I collect, and plus I collect books on Paris, London, New York City. I collect books on those world cities. I collect books on Jerusalem too, and other cities, Rome, the city of Rome in Italy. But I collect a lot of books on Paris. If I showed you all the books I have on Paris, you wouldn't believe. But I have these in my study. They're not downstairs, they're in my main study. I have this book in my study that I have not read. It's by David McCullough, The Greater Journey, Americans in Paris. I have that. Check it out. He's a good historian. I really like his books. Of course, I have Jack Kerouac, Satori in Paris, and Pick by Jack Kerouac, the beat poet and writer. I have this book in my study, Black Sun, The Brief, Transient, and Violent Eclipse of Harry Crosby by Jeremy Wolfe. I won't go into this book, but parts of the book covers his life in Paris. Just check it out. Also, I have these guidebooks in my main study on Paris. These books on Paris, like you have a map of Paris here. So when I'm reading Paris Vagabond, I go online and I look at the maps of Paris, and I Google in where he mentions in the novel, or excuse me, in the memoir, these different places, and I look up on the internet. So I have, it has all these maps about Paris. I collect books on Paris. So I have this one that I check out when I'm reading Paris Vagabond. I also have this one on Paris, Architect, Sculpture, and Painting, text by André Castel on Paris. And I have this book of erotica that was published in Paris called the Olympia Reader, edited by Maurice Gardels. If you read this is a reprint. I think it was published back in Grove Press, 1965. In it you have the writings of people like Lawrence Durrell, Henry Miller, Jean Genet, Frank Harris. Henry Miller's mentioned again. William S. Burroughs, Chester Ames, Gregory Curso. This was published, first of all, in Paris. It's erotica. Usually writers, how they supported themselves, they were starving, and what they would do is they would write pornography to make money, and they would publish it. And this guy in Paris, the Olympia Reader, edited by Maurice Gardels, would pay them so they could not starve. I got this book out that was in my main library too because it was mentioned in my reading, The Symbolist Movement in Literature by Arthur Simmons. This was published first in 1899, later revised in 1908. It's a very famous book. When you read Paris Vagabond, you have to look at the Symbolist movement at the time there in France when this book was written. And I got this book out. I haven't read it. I tend to buy a lot of biographies that I don't read, but this one, Impressionist Quartet, the intimate genius of Monet and Morissette, Degas, and Castanet by Jeffrey Myers. This is a biography. The reason why I brought that up is because I was reading about Charles Baudelaire, and he discovered Monet, and I wanted to read about Monet here. So I got this book out. I bought it a couple of years ago. Jeffrey Myers writes a lot of good biographies that I recommend. He's written biographies on Catherine Mansfield, Wayham Lewis, Hemingway, Lawrence, D.H. Lawrence, Conrad, Poe, Fitzgerald, Edmund Wilson, Frost, Bogart, Somerset Maugham. He writes a lot of biographies. Jeffrey Myers, I recommend him. I like biographies. You know that. I have probably 700 in my library of biographies. So that's what I'm doing. I'm sitting here. It's 9:52 at night on a Tuesday. Tomorrow's a Wednesday. And I'm writing in my diary, and I'm reading about Charles Baudelaire, who wrote the famous poetry book, The Flowers of Evil, which I remember in high school when I was smoking dope and taking LSD and mescaline and tripping out. Flowers of Evil was a thing I carried around my backpack. So that's it. I just wanted to share where I'm doing tonight and what I'm looking at. These books, The Black Sun, Satori in Paris by Jack Kerouac, The Greater Journey, Americans in Paris by David McLeod, Impressionist Quartet by Jeffrey Myers, The Symbolist Movement in Literature by Arthur Simmons, and The Olympic Reader, edited by Maurice Gordas. I don't know. And I collect travel books, but I keep this in my study because I'm always thinking about Paris, the city of lights. Well, until next time, bye.